Auzubillahiminashaitanirrajim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Honorable Ambassador Munir Akram Sahab, Ambassadors, Honorable Ambassador Meet from OIC, a Special Observer in United Nations, Ambassadors Dr. Sahab, Fatino Azrat. It indeed is a great honor and a privilege to share my humble views in this forum. I 100% agree what our Honorable Ambassador Munir Akram has said, because that is not only the viewpoint of the government of Pakistan, it's the viewpoint of the entire Pakistani nation. And therefore, he has put it in very focused form, and that is our stand. Many things have been said, and I will not like to repeat what atrocities are being committed. I am sure people are aware. But what I would like to say is that at the beginning of 20th century, there were conflicts which culminated finally in the First World War in 1914. And in that war, there were casualties close to about 17 to 18 million people were butchered. And as a result of that, a need was felt that we must have peace in the world. And therefore it was decided that we should have League of Nations, so that it helps in conflict resolution and maintain peace. But unfortunately, League of Nations was also ineffective. And Lenin called it as thieves' kitchen. And finally, Second World War took place. And in that, you saw that about 70 to 80 million people were killed. That means 7 to 8 crore people, as you understand them. And in addition to that, first time in the human history, nuclear bombs were used, Hiroshima and Nagasaki. So again, the nations sat together, and it was felt that you need to have another organization, and United Nations came into being. And what were its objectives? Its objectives were peacekeeping, conflict resolution, human rights, rights of self-determination, international justice, handling of refugees, for example, climate change, education, health, and so on. But the fundamental objective was peacekeeping and conflict resolution. And you have seen that ever since United Nations has come into being, how many wars have been fought? You have seen thereafter Korean War, you have seen Vietnam War, you have seen Gulf Wars. We had in the subcontinent 1965 Indo-Pakistan War, 1971 War, Afghanistan War. Millions of people were butchered and many people were displaced. Even today in Pakistan, we have about 3 to 4 million Afghan refugees. And there is no support coming from anywhere. It is Pakistan which is supporting. So if these were the objectives, has the United Nations been able to really be effectively control this, and has there been peace? No. So therefore, first question is United Nations very effective organization? And if it is not, what is need to be done? So in that, I would strongly recommend that one, that United Nations reorganization has to be thought again. Secondly, if you have to make it effective, then you have to go by its charter and its resolutions. And its charter, chapter 6, talks about peace and conflict resolution, and chapter 7 gives a sort of a modality how to cope up in a situation if there is a conflict. And in that there are 3 stages. First is that you put a diplomatic pressure on countries which are involved in atrocities and aggression. If that does not work, then you work on economic sanctions. If that doesn't work, then you have a United Nations force and effectively use kinetic energy to set things right and give rights to the people who are there. But you have seen that it's not happening. And it is not that people, the governments don't understand what is the problem of the Kashmiris or the Palestinians. They all understand it. but the point is we have double standards. We turn a blind eye to the areas which clash with their geopolitical and strategic interests globally. And that is the reason. So therefore, I would strongly recommend that the superpowers and all those who matter, they should reconsider. Because if we talk of human rights, if we talk of right of self-determination, and on one hand you give right to one country and on the other hand you ignore that, I think international peace will not come. I was invited by the Universal Peace Federation, London, and their question was how to maintain international peace. And I said that international peace is not possible till you ensure international justice. And you have seen that the International Court of Justice, which is under the United Nations, they gave a verdict against Netanyahu, as Daksab has very rightly pointed out, and they said there is nothing doing, they won't bother. Therefore, whatever atrocities are being committed in Kashmir, are they not well known to the outside world, to the Western world? They are very well known. But there are United Nations Military Observer Group in India and Pakistan, UNMOGIL. I had the privilege to be their liaison officer for 2 years when I was working in the general headquarters. I used to take them wherever there was a violation on the line of control. But on the Indian side, they won't allow them. They are keeping them there. They are the military observers from 36 countries. But they tell them that you're confined to your rooms, you can't get out. And United Nations is paying for them. But they are not effective. And no country in the world is telling them that make them effective and they should go and investigate as to what has happened. And that is why about 1 million Indian army, they are butchering the unarmed Kashmiris, and they are really creating all sorts of situation for them that they can. You know about Burhan Wani, a young man. He came out for his independence. That is his right, because the United Nations has a charter and United Nations has a resolution which gives them the right for self-determination. He wanted to get that, and he was killed and declared as a terrorist. And today many of the Kashmiri leaders are behind bars there. Both the Western world does not know that. So therefore, I very rightly, good suggestions have been given by my friend. I think we will have to have a proactive diplomatic exterior maneuvers to ensure that the outside world knows what is the exact state in Kashmir. And our endeavors must not only be focused on Europe and America and Britain. We must go to the African continent because they all have one boat. We must go to South America, and we must go to Southeast Asia and all other countries and apprise them of the atrocities. I was detailed as a special envoy of the Prime Minister when I was a senator and chairman of the Senate Committee on Defense Production. I was sent to United Kingdom as a special envoy of the Prime Minister on Kashmir. I went to House of Lords. I met many MPs. And I went to Amnesty International. And I met their ex-army chief of defense staff, Lord Field Marshal Guthrie. I had a breakfast meeting with him. But I had a laptop with me. And all those pictures of young girls with wounds in their eyes through those pellet guns. And honest to God, there were tears in his eyes. But he said that your case is not being projected here in the English media and people do not know. So therefore, that's a very valid suggestion that we need to have a proactive strategy. In addition to that, I also know that a strong Pakistan can only make a strong voice for Kashmiris. Therefore, we have to look inwards also. We need national coherence and unity. We have to tackle with the threat of the terrorist which is there, and we have to work on our economic revival so that we stand up on our feet and be a strong country, and therefore our voice will be heard. वो उर्दू में कहते हैं ना, जिसकी लाठी उसकी भैंस, वो पंजाबी का एक है कि जिन्हां दे घर दाने उन्हां दे कमले भी सियाने. If you are rich enough Therefore, people will go with you, the world will go with you, you need to have a nuisance value. And that is so unfortunate. Otherwise, I think we must get justice at all costs. In addition to that, you have seen what India did in 1971. Crossed an international border, violating UN Charter and international law, and went into East Pakistan, which permitted them. There are problems within countries. There are problems within India also. Does China has the right to get its forces inside and force its will? And nobody protested. No country came up to say that this was wrong, what was being done. They came inside our airspace and they placed bombs into Balakot. We had to retaliate, and it was very rightly said that it could escalate, because how did First World War started? One of the prince was murdered, and thereafter the things escalated and the things went out of control. So therefore, I was seeing this, that the Council of Foreign Relations Global Conflict Trackers, they say that there are 32 conflict zones in the world, but 4 are very important. And in 4, they said one is, for example, Ukraine, second is South China Sea and Taiwan, third is Palestine, and fourth is Kashmir. And you have seen that 2 of them have been blown up. Nobody knew that this situation would reach there, at the brink of Third World War. And similarly, in Kashmir, if you put their back to the wall and continue these atrocities, this can blow up. And it will not only burn 2 countries or that region, it will affect the entire world. So therefore, my humble request would be to the world authorities, to the superpowers, that let us do justice. Let us do justice to everybody. We have United Nations, we have its charter. Let's go by that charter. Let us obey the resolution. Let us ensure that those resolutions are obeyed. So after having said that, I will not take much time because limited time is given. This is such a subject, Palestine and Kashmir, that on that you can speak for hours and hours. Palestinians are being subjected to unprecedented genocide. And you know what is happening. We are seeing children being slaughtered, women being killed, old people have lost their lives and so on. But where is the world conscious? No, because we have our strategic priorities, we have our interests, and we have different standards. This is how the world peace cannot be maintained. But at the end, I can assure you that I am an ex-serviceman now, and I am the president of ex-serviceman society, Pakistan Ex-Serviceman Society, in which we have about 3 to 4 million ex-servicemen. On their behalf and on behalf of all the Pakistan civil societies, and even part of the government, on behalf of the government and the army, I can assure you Pakistan stands firm with Kashmiris and with the Palestinians. Because for the Palestinians also, our founding father Qaid-e-Azam Muhammad Ali Jinnah had said that there is no question, we will go by the... When somebody asked Qaid-e-Azam Muhammad Ali Jinnah, what will be your fundamental 4 objectives of your foreign policy? He said, number 1, we would like to have friendship with all countries, especially neighbors. Number 2, he said, we have no aggressive designs against any country. Number 3, he said that we will stand with all oppressed and suppressed nations, not Muslims only. Any oppressed and suppressed nations, because United Nations Charter says that, we will stand with them. And lastly, that we will obey the UN Charter. I am sure today those objectives are the same. We are following them and we will continue following them. We condemn what Modi is doing in Kashmir, and we are determined that this will lead to India's own disintegration, because by force and by the barrel of the gun, you cannot suppress the people, and one day the justice will prevail and the Kashmiris will have their right of self-determination. Thank you very much.